So starting off, what type of couple are Evie and Pete? And I'll start with you, Eleanor.
Well, I think they're incredibly complicated. I think they've been together for such a long time, I think since university. Um, and I think that, there are some kind of rocky foundations, but I think initially they're very happy together. I'm not sure how Evie's family feel about Pete. I feel like there's a kind of divide there, which I think informs a lot of the behavior that then kind of happens later. But I think that obviously as the series goes on and they go through that terrible tragedy of losing their baby, um, their relationship really falls apart and they start taking it out on each other, particularly Evie against Pete. And she seems incapable of moving on with her life in any way, and sees this new neighbor, Danny, as the perfect escape from her life.
No, I would say in terms of their relationship, Pete and Evie are on. It feels like they're on different trajectories. That in some sense, Evie's moving on, moving forwards, and Pete's just trying to hold on and stay where he was, but he's already sort of missed the boat for that, really. And that's something, that kind of divergence of trajectory is something that becomes exposed, I think, by the loss of their child. So I think that's the kind of tragedy that sets the whole thing in train in terms of that breakdown.
So as along with that, the series, excuse me, delves into the complexities of desire, grief, suburbia, status anxiety, and so forth. What were sort of the challenges or the spots that you were kind of interested in exploring through this lens of life with couples and what they eventually get to?
I think for me, I think there's always that interest, and you never know what's happening around you. You never know what's going on in other people's lives, and yet they can be living next door to you, but you never really know what's going on. So I think that's a kind of very interesting subject. But I think for me, obviously the main themes is exploring the breakdown of this relationship, and how that transfers through grief onto this other couple and this kind of fascination with them that becomes an obsession. Certainly for Evie, my character. So I would say that for me was kind of the most exciting theme of the show.
I think for me, it was a bit the gap between the appearances and the reality of things, sort of as Eleanor alluded to, but specifically in the context of we convince ourselves that we're a certain way, but there's something that lies beneath that maybe, certainly in Pete's case, he's not willing to investigate. And all those dissatisfaction, all those repressed feelings come to the surface, and he's given a very different picture of who he is, for himself and for the audience to discover as well.
So Pete is an investigative journalist. How does his career inform some of the decisions that he makes throughout this series?
Well, his work draws him into contact with Danny, basically, and something that Danny's involved in. So it brings the two of them together on a different kind of axis, which is further complicated by what's gone on in their personal lives. So it's a kind of it's a track that leads to another collision.
And so for you guys, developing chemistry, but also an importance of developing chemistry across with the other couples, what was that experience like, sort of building those tension and layers into the characters?
Really, really exciting. We were very lucky in that we all immediately bonded as a cast. We became really great friends very quickly with Dries Vos, our director at the helm. So it made kind of very tricky conversations very easy because we were all able to be very open and speak plainly. And I think, yeah, in terms of exploring those relationships, I think Jessica DeGow and I did a lot of work, just the two of us, on creating more female agency. So it wasn't necessarily on the page, but to suggest that it was the girls' idea, that this might be a fun idea, that they try this, that kind of added this extra layer, them having this really kind of close friendship and this bond. And it was great to kind of create that with Jess. And then obviously, everything else kind of plays into that and plays around that.